So that we're recording this session, Joseph, following our meeting with the London Leaders Mastermind group last week, which is where the meeting ended up as a mastermind discussion, didn't it? And we've both been talking and reflecting on what's happening with the group.
Yeah.
Probably useful to reflect on, before COVID-19 and what we were doing with the network, and I guess where we see it going afterwards. Talk me through your thoughts and the discussion we've been having.
Yeah. So I think if we look back at the end of last year, a lot of the drivers and the main themes of the conversations were around London-based individuals looking to network with similar-minded people.
Yes.
And that network would bring a variety of people, a variety of topics, and potentially some repetition as well as some diverse discussions from month on month. And these were run, once a month.
Yeah.
Where we've entered COVID-19, there's some common themes that are bubbling up to the top. And these would be more related to some of the challenges that both companies and individuals are going through in these times. And it's created this more common theme across the group, which is worth, as you said, reflecting on, because this is not going away, in the next few weeks. And consequently, it is worth nourishing and exploring further as we're trying to help and develop, the group and the value that people get from it.
And it's interesting, Joseph, I completely agree, because the other thing is we're not just seeing this in this group. I'm seeing this with my clients. Yeah. I'm seeing it with my peers, my network. I'm seeing it with the people that I'm talking with, even personally, professional business people that I know personally. There's a proliferation, isn't there, way beyond just this group of people that we're talking to.
All right. I can concur. I've been having conversations with individuals who are reaching out to me under this idea of, any advice, any coaching tips in these times, and also with clients. And I can see some of the overlap. Clearly, a lot of leaders today have to be energy multipliers. So that's an example where teams have to be highly energized because cycles of change, cycles of reflection are going to have to be shorter as we move through these turbulent times. And we're adjusting to both the demand, the supply, our markets, our competitors. But also at an individual level, something that I've practiced more, ironically, during this session, during this period, is the 3 levels of energy boosting. One is physical, which you and I have a lot in common, and we completely understand and appreciate.
Yeah.
And that's our morning routine. That's a diverse set of exercises, but it's also to do it regularly and then create these physical manifestations in our bodies that create that energy. The other one, which you and I talk about a lot, is this concept of oxygenating our brain, and that's creating more energy in the brain through reading and listening.
Yeah.
And then the third one is this energy multiplier. As a team leader, you've got to be the extra boost of energy for your team, for your peers, and for your staff.
I really love that term, energy multiplier, because as a leader in an organization, if you aren't bringing that level of energy, then it's really easy for that to be sapped through normal circumstances, regardless of some crisis like the pandemic that we're facing right now. And energy multiplier, I really like that.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's on a personal side, but it's still professionals who are reaching out for some of that discussion. So when we take the examples of clients, they realize that they've been through now the last couple of months of March, April, May, and they've done some adjusting. They've tightened some belts, or they've pivoted parts of their business units into a particular shape, and they're reflecting on possibly their supply chain, their partners, their channels. But as they look forward, they're looking for the same thing. They're looking for that extra energy. They're looking for that extra ability to reflect and validate. And that is a consequence of the scenario planning they're doing. So I was speaking to, as happens, my brother, who's based out in the Far East and deals with a lot of private equity and so on. And we were talking about, what shape are some of these economies going to take in the next couple of quarters. And so as a lot of finance people are modeling, some are talking about a V shape, some are talking about a long U shape, and some are talking about a long L shape, depending on which industry and which lens you take. And going back to the London Leaders Network, my feeling, and something that you and I have thought about, is there is a highly likely scenario that over the next 2 quarters, we are going to be in a U shape.
Yeah.
And during that U shape, both individuals, companies, and teams are going to have to keep energizing themselves, keep validating and testing some of the work that they're doing, some of the relationships they have. And they're going to be in that constant state of, I need to improve, I need to develop, I need to rethink, I need to validate, I need to test, at length, right? And it makes it exciting, but at the same time, it's not a walk in the park, right? So
no,
and the work together, it helps.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Joseph. And I think the thing that is very often overlooked is that when you go through such periods of difficulty and challenge, that all eyes are on the leaders in an organization. All eyes are, what decisions are you making? How are you engaging the teams? How are you communicating that? How are you making sure that you keep yourself focused so that you can keep your team focused? And these are what we consider to be, key leadership traits. But sometimes we're in situations that we've never faced before. And who supports that group of leaders through those periods? Sometimes you can get that internally in organizations, but more often than not, you can't. There's more questions than answers right now. And that's what I noticed in our discussion last week, that everybody was in a similar position, but just the discussion about some of the difficulties, some of the challenging conversations, some of the uncertainty, hearing what other people are thinking, feeling, planning, how they're creating clarity for their organizations, just drawing on that. I used the term mastermind last week because that's how it felt. The collective thinking and experience is so much more valuable than any one person reflecting on what they think they're going to do. And it's a combination of support, it's a combination of some challenge, sharing of experience. And that was what really struck me last week, that there was this mixture of experience and support and challenge. And I think that's the thing that creates more value for us as we move forward. It certainly felt like we had a bit of a shift in the dynamic last time.
Yeah. And it seems, as I'm taking some of these points on, it seems that we're gravitating towards this common theme of self-development during challenging times.
Yes.
Right. And as you know full well, some of the process involved in that is actually hearing yourself ask the questions that declare your challenge.
Yeah.
And then being in an environment or in a room or a group of people that you're comfortable with, because you're not going to be judged, right? They come from different backgrounds, different companies, different sectors even. And so that opening up is the first step. And then the second step is to have that engagement and that listening opportunity. And suddenly everybody's saying, what a good idea. I love that story. That really resonates with me. I'm going to take that away and do something with it. And so your idea of mastermind is spot on. And I think where we're gravitating towards here for the next couple is this view that self-development in challenging times is going to be useful for this group and others joining the group as we continue to develop that conversation and our personal experiences, which I'm sure are very rich and diverse, and that makes it even more exciting.
Oh, I agree. And, you're right. You talked earlier about this, what shape does the recovery look like? Regardless of the shape, if it's a V shape, then people are going to find themselves in a high growth space very quickly, trying to mobilize, get people in place to be able to deliver on the commitments to their clients. If it's a longer U shape, well, you're going to need more energy, more focus, more clarity, help the team stay motivated and engaged. And if it's an L shape, well, is that restructure? Is that complete organizational redesign? Is it changing the product mix? Is it whatever it is? These things are not straightforward. You don't just kind of react and respond. It takes some careful thought. It takes some planning. It takes some focus. And I guess, you do get that inside your own organization, don't get me wrong. But where I've seen the real value in this group is, before people coming into our groups, there's a level of, I wouldn't necessarily call it isolation, but it is the kind of missing and the loss of a connected group of minds. Whereas coming out of these sessions, you've been getting messages, I've been getting messages, really powerful sessions that we've now started to have with the group. So there's definitely something in that that we will make sure happens as we progress into future sessions.
Yeah. A couple of takeaways to add to that. I have noticed, and I'm not going to name people here, but I've noticed a couple of people who've joined, and the first time they joined, they were not that vocal. And they were absorbing some of the context, some of the engagement, some of the exchanges with the diverse, mindsets and questions that people were throwing. And then, as you say, as they began to find the value of the storytelling and the slightly different lenses that the individuals had, they became more vocal in the second one, and then a lot more vocal in the third one. And that journey in itself tells us a lot, which is partly value, comfort, and then engagement, right? Yes. And to replicate that within our day-to-day environment is not straightforward. We all know that, companies have been for years designing their year with a whole set of metrics and plans that, are based on developing the business. And then they have these moments in the year where they have an offsite. They take people out and they're trying to change the lens, trying to change the perspective, trying to change the environment to stimulate a different way of thinking, to stimulate new energies, to stimulate new anchors and stories in their head so then they can be motivated again. In the situation where we are in now, these things have gone. They're not readily available. I spoke to a couple of senior executives over the weekend and asked them, when was the last senior management team you had? The offsite. And the answer was, well, we're supposed to have one in April. When is the next one? October. So when was the one before April? Oh, that was supposed to be in December. We had that one. Then we were supposed to do one 3 or 4 months later. So that's going to be nearly a year because they want to do it physically together for all the right reasons.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of good energy and good value in these discussions, and it's only going in one way as more individuals participate with their individual questions and their individual perspectives, right?
I agree. I completely agree. And one of the things that I find really valuable in those meetings and discussions, there's a number of things, but one of them is the space it creates in my diary to have a quality discussion. Because in my business, and I'm sure you're the same, Joseph, I'm sure a lot of people that join us are the same, it's like a race. We're constantly doing stuff, taking action, following to-do lists, having conversations, one-to-ones, leading a business, thinking about the plan, all the other stuff. And life is like a race, isn't it? There's very few occasions where you get to kind of create some space, get asked some really good questions, listen to other people's life experience without any expectation that you've got to act on it. Yep. But it does inform your thinking, your strategizing. And I came away and my mind was just really, I wouldn't say racing, but really reflective. There was some really interesting experiences, valuable insights shared last week. And I think we'll get more and more of that. And that's it's a really difficult and intangible thing to try and communicate and get across to people. But the value of being able to do that on a regular basis when you don't get that space anywhere else, it can be really powerful.
Yeah. And as you know, the practice of focus, the practice of finding time, carving out time, is a highly, highly valuable skill and practice to have. And a lot of very senior management members do this. And they find times in their diary, they carve it out for themselves. They call it thinking time, or they call it off time. And it's the same idea. It's to be able to carve out a time. Don't go in with any expectations, but go deep in thinking. Yes. Go deep in your questioning. Go deep in trying to listen and understand to other people. Yeah. And we're achieving it, right? The conversations prove it. As you said, I've received quite a few thank yous, I guess, on LinkedIn from various people and complimenting us on the good conversation and some of the good takeaways that they've had. So it does work. It does work. And, you know, we try very hard with all the racing that we're doing. We try and get the date nice and early so we give people plenty of time to clear their calendar, clear the decks, come in and spend some time with us and spend some time with each other. So it works. The more diversity, the better. And that's the other big ingredients for all of this to work, is we have very different sectors and very different industries, but then they have a common problem. They have a common challenge. They have a common question that they're trying to unpack.
Yeah.
You know, it works.
Go on, Joseph. What's the question?
I think the question that, you know, we need to sort of spend a bit more time on is what is going to be our habits that we're going to keep working on and keep improving as we are navigating uncharted territories.
Yeah.
And these habits that we need to harness and create a better environment for them to flourish are going to find their own way, but they need a bit of guidepost, right? They need some sort of post that we sort of bounce around in as we develop them at certain pace. And then validate. You need an environment to validate them, to test them, to hear yourself talk about them.
Yeah.
That's a big one. But it's new habits and new practices that will navigate us for the next 3 months. I think might be a bit more than that, but yeah.
I completely agree. I think it's going to be a year at least. Yeah. It's going to be a year, and you're absolutely right. It's about that personal, professional development, self-development through this period of time, because now is the time we grow. Yeah. When things are challenging, when the environment calls for more from us, these are the times when we have to dig deep, we have to grow. Don't put your blinkers on, don't put your head down, actually lift your sights higher, understand what other people are doing. Now's the time to really connect with your network and take some of that experience and positivity. You know, you talked about generating energy. It's energy and clarity. And I guess that's what we can help this group to find amongst, a network of like-minded leaders. You know, that was always our vision for it, wasn't it? And it's really starting to move in that direction now.
Absolutely. I look forward to the next one. Have we got a date for it? I think we do. July, right?
We've got a date for it. It's in July, and I'm just going to check my diary to make sure that I get the date right. It is Thursday, the 16th of July at 6 p.m.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, Thursday, 16th of July at 6 p.m. So yeah, let's keep the conversation going, Joseph, and thank you for taking the time to record this. I'll put this on our YouTube channel, drop a link into the London Leaders Network group, and we can then give other people the benefit of our reflection. Hopefully they feel the same and want to be attracted to join us in the next meeting.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure. And
yeah, you too. Thanks very much. See you soon.